Now to complete this exercise, first in the editor activity, I'll start by calling our insertPet method from our onOptionsItemSelected method. And I do that inside this switch case statement where the r.id is action save. So putting this in here means that the save button in the app was clicked and will trigger this method. Now after I insert the pet, I call the finish method here. So this means that the editor will close and return to the previous activity, which is the catalog activity in our case. So this means when I press the save button here, the insertPet method is triggered. Now let's move up to the insertPet method inside our editor activity. And inside it, we'll need to define what happens when that method is called. So first, I'll read from the 3 edit text fields. So I already have my name string here. Let's finish it up for our other 3 text fields. So for breed and weight, we call the same sequence of getText and toString in order to get a string value. Then optionally, you can also call the method trim as mentioned in the instructor's notes. So this makes sure if the user accidentally typed a space before or after the text is typed, it's removed from the string. Now for the weight value, we want to store weight as an integer, not a string. So we'll be using the integer.parseInt method in order to convert the string into an integer. So next, to create the content values, we can actually copy over the code from our catalog activity to get a writable database, and then create content values, and then insert that into the database. So let's copy that code here. Now all we need to do is simply change the values inserted to the ones that we grabbed from the edit text instead of referring to the Toto dummy data here. So changing the name value here to name string, which we defined above, changing the breed from the hard-coded terrier to breed string, and then changing the gender to the mgender value. And mgender should be updated as soon as the drop-down option is selected. And the last one, let's change it to weight, which we defined up here. Now we're throwing an error here because it can't resolve the mdb value. So remember to also create an instance of the database petDBHelper class. And passing in the context of this, which is our current activity. Now as mentioned in the quiz, if a new row ID is returned from the db.insert method, then we want to show a toast that the insert was completed successfully. Otherwise, if this method returns a -1 value, this means an error occurred with the insertion, and we want to show a different toast message. You can write a simple if-else statement to show the correct toast message, depending on the value of the row ID returned by our insert method. So here's what that if-else statement looks like. So with those changes done, let's run it on the emulator. So first, let me go ahead and clear the app data so I start fresh. So back to settings, apps, select the pets app, then hit storage, and then clear data. All right, let's go back to the pets app again. So my pets database table has 0 rows, and then let's go to the editor and add a pet in. So I've added Garfield, our tabby, and I'm gonna click save now. And with that, we see our toast appear down here, showing that a pet with the row ID 1 was inserted, and the number of rows in our pet database table was increased to 1. So let's try it one more time. Let's insert another pet in. How about let's insert Binks, the Bombay. Let's make him a male of weight 6 kilograms. So let's save him to the database, and the row ID properly increases to 2. So if when you're running the app, the row count in the catalog activity doesn't increment by 1, remember the hint we gave in the quiz. We need to modify the catalog activity to query the database again when the activity is restarted. And this is because the catalog activity already exists, so if display database info were inside of it, the old number of rows would be displayed. So because onCreate isn't called again, we'll need to move the display database info method into the overridden onStart method, as shown here. And doing so means that when you insert a new pet and go back to the catalog activity, the row count increases. Now you can double check that the pets that we inserted exist in the database by downloading the shelter.db file and then opening it up in the terminal or command line with the select * from pets command. So to recap, first you're triggering insert pets when the save button in the editor is pressed. Then you get all the string data from the edit text fields and then save them in a content values object. Lastly, you insert that contents value object into the pets table. So after all these steps, we've completed inserting data via the save button.